So, folks, we are about to embark on a foolhardy bet that I made to chat. In my hubris and in my desire to fund this show, I have committed to reviewing another video from Whatifalthist, and this one is titled "The Next Ideology Isn't What You Think," period. And that's already such an incoherent title. The next ideology of what? Am I gonna die? We're all gonna die eventually. This might shorten your lifespan, but you know, your morbid curiosity will carry you through. Who or what is Whatifalthist? For those of you, the uninitiated, I apologize. You're about to learn things that you don't need to know, ever, frankly. But for those who wish to pursue this specific rabbit hole to its conclusion, Whatifalthist is a weirdly connected individual, a young man, I think he's like 24, 23 or so, who has for the last decade been making videos on YouTube. He started out as an alternate history YouTuber, you know, speculating like, what if the South won the Civil War, or what if the Nazis won World War II, etc., etc., etc. And then several years ago, it took a bit of a turn towards talking about modern day politics and becoming somewhat of a pundit. And that's about when he appeared on my radar, and I didn't really think that much of him until, like, more recently. And I especially took more interest and notice of him after I found that Elon Musk had been retweeting his stuff. He has connections to a young Gen Z conservative think tank. He is in the orbit of some of the network state philosophers, like Balaji Srinivasan and Mendacious Moldbug, or Mencious Moldbug. I always say it wrong. And these people are folks that are connected to the Trump administration in a myriad of unsavory ways. And somehow, this man has found himself in that orbit. And so we've found ourselves going through some of his content. He is, to put a fine point on it, bigoted. He is someone who I have watched his numerous manifestos, including his manifesto. And he's someone who dips deep into Nazi esotericism. And that's not me hyperbolizing. That's not me really making anything up. I'm not taking a molehill and turning it into a mountain here. It's just straight up, he believes in magic, spirits, telepathy, you know, the astral plane, and also he believes in an almost magical or supernatural form of eugenics, whereby certain traits like heroism or intellect or what have you are passed on via your bloodline. And he, you know, he draws deep from this well of, you know, esoteric Nazism, this patchwork of religious ideas that the Nazis used to justify their actions. And he specifically and numerously and vociferously talks about how he does not believe in reading anthropological books, or most anthropology after like the year 1950, because he thinks it's been ruined by modern wokeness. And he consistently seems to link back to, well, fascists and fringe conspiracy theorists and Nazis for a lot of his book recommendations. It's bizarre. And so I want to inform you that this is probably going to get really weird really fast, considering his latest video is modern alchemy. The next ideology isn't what you think. And when I mouse over it, it's a skull surrounded by candles. So I think we're going to get into some weird stuff here. And just a heads up, that's kind of where we're at. So strap in, because this is the longest video he's ever put out that isn't his direct manifesto or him talking with Orson Scott Card. So let's dive in. It's gonna get weird, and it's gonna get crazy.
The way I structure these videos is I release some that are more normie coded, like the ones on current American politics and society, while some more niche ones like the one on Mesoamerican civilization. This
Niche
video doesn't really fit into an easy category, and you'll see why. In a lot of my videos, I point out a trend which I think will happen, whether or not I want it to. In this video, I've found something that could work. Whether or not you guys find this useful is your choice, but I'm at least offering it as an option. Our society is going through a very brutal period, and I think anyone on every side of the political octagon can agree to that. One of the core issues is that the lack of meaning or any sense of shared reality. In a psychological sense, we live in a world that's like shattered glass. As was foretold in the 19th century by Nietzsche.
Oh, God. Okay.
The death of God.
Yeah, all right. Map of religion today. Sorry. We're less than a minute in. And this map he uses a lot of maps that he has made himself. And God damn it, he uses the same maps over and over and over again, and he doesn't pay attention to what's on the maps. Because, God damn it, that says map of religion, Toy Day. Toy Day! This guy has over 700,000 subscribers. Toy Day. That's not even touching the craziness of the map itself. I do always love on this map that the entire West Coast is just godless. The entire West Coast dominated by atheism. Oh, God.
Had consequences that utterly...
He's trying to say today, and he just doesn't give a shit.
Australia has white atheism, unlike Europe's black atheism.
Oh, God, I just noticed that. God, why? Why is he like this? Genuine, why are... Oh, God, why are some of them in white and some of them in black text? Why? Okay, all right. We're just moving past this.
Destroyed the old world. Things that we used to take completely for granted are just gone now. There's no shared concept that human life has any value, that there...
Yeah. No, yeah, God. Just, the things he will just say, and then move past. Like, yeah, no one thinks human life is valuable anymore. Bitch, if you ask basically anyone, they'll tell you life is valuable. Who are you talking to?
Even is a soul, how the universe works, should the nation exist, what reality even is, or what a man and a woman are. We've already gone insane, we're just wealthy enough to mask the consequences. I could pick up on this void intuitively in high school where I realized adults didn't actually understand the things they were saying. There was nothing behind the bluff that was our society, and I knew it would come tumbling down sooner.
Okay, Joker. He's going full Joker mode already, and we're a minute and a half in.
Or later. Sadly, I turned out to be right. Since then, I've been trying to piece things together to make sense of what will and won't work here. I cross-referenced a variety of things until I found what I'm about to tell you in this video. I once did a podcast with Balaji comparing alchemy to crypto, in which both...
God. This is how I find out. He literally did a podcast with Balaji Srinivasan. Holy shit. What? So for those of you who don't know who Balaji Srinivasan is, okay? Balaji Srinivasan is the guy who wrote a manifesto for the tech bros. It's called The Network State. You can look it up. You can read it for free. But it's basically a fascistic wet dream where, the wealthy come into a city or a small state or an island of some kind, buy off the government, either legally or illegally, and replace like the police or augment the police with their privatized technology, right? And essentially, you then create your own little totalitarian state designed along your technocratic whims. He describes it in much more simplistic terms, but like you basically have people who believe and support democracy and freedom that they despise, and then you have the people who want to serve the technocratic overlord who, by virtue of being the technocrat, knows all that must be done. And isn't this the most likely collaboration for him? I mean, it makes sense, but like, I didn't know it had already happened. And so, for those of you wondering, for example, why was Peter Thiel pushing for the United States to acquire Greenland? That seems weird, right? Well, it's entirely because Peter Thiel has read The Network State and is friends with Balaji Srinivasan, who is himself like a very, very wealthy man. And Peter Thiel loves the idea of the network state. And his idea was essentially get Greenland and give it to me, Peter Thiel. It's genuinely that was the plan. That was what he was pushing for. And again, Whatifalthist is just weirdly connected, man.
They're international systems for kings, rogues, and travelers to create an order distinct from governments. Both give you rewards for passing certain difficult tests, have multiple tiers in an encrypted internal system, and have power if you know how to use them. They have their own worldview and are tools to resist centralized power. To speak to that theme, Zcash is unstoppable private money. It's like Bitcoin but encrypted, giving you the freedom to transact without surveillance, without debasement.
Oh my god, it's this fucking ad. This is the sponsored segment. Oh my god. Are you fucking kidding me?
Part 1. A paradox.
Okay.
I think once humanity's power grew great enough and we were no longer dependent on nature, very strange things.
We're still dependent on nature. What are you talking about? You stupid bastard.
Things started to happen. Wait, I don't think that. I know it to be true. The modern world shows such
You're literally showing a nuclear power plant that relies on the river next to it for the cooling. You're showing a nuclear power plant that is reliant upon the natural process of fission. God damn it.
Staggering intensity between a society which grew so wealthy it committed suicide, progressives who in their drive for progress.
No, this is when you have like competing like aristocracies trying to impress one another, and a religious theocracy that is trying to again impress one another. This is when you have capitalism, i.e., when you want to build something cheaply and durable enough to get by. Like, this isn't, like, yeah, capitalism isn't going to result in building a goddamn monastery or cathedral, because it's not profitable to do that.
Collapse their societies, the atom bomb, which both ended war while causing the potential for the end of civilization in a bad morning, the Japanese Empire rising to conquer everything from Alaska to New Guinea overnight, or Hitler emerging from being an unemployed vagrant to Germany's Führer, conquering an empire stretching from the Atlantic to Kazakhstan, which lasted a very mythic 12 years. You wouldn't think the world
That's an odd way to describe the Nazis. The duration of the Nazi regime. A mythic 12 years.
today was real if we didn't have to live in it. There's some both beautiful and horrible things in it. It's crazy that modern populations see the most remarkable things, but their humanity has been so crushed that they can't appreciate its intensity. There's another paradox there. Life today is so insane by historic standards, but nothing ever happens, and the end of history has already been reached. So
change is the most fundamental thing in reality. Saying things will never change is the one best you will always lose. How do you... Dude, you didn't even... You have a period at the end of sentence 1. You don't have a period at the end of sentence 2. And then you misspelled bet. How do you misspell a 3-letter word? Oh my god.
Oh, we have a worldview that says that the world can't change.
There's literally no worldview built on the idea that the world can't change. Not a single one. What are you talking about? How? We're less than 5 minutes in and I'm already No, this guy isn't even lazy. He put out a 90-minute... You could be watching Mad Max Fury Road, and instead you guys are watching me watch this. Scratch that. You could be watching the extended edition of Lord of the Rings, and instead you guys are watching me watch this. This is terrible.
Which is not going to work. I think the reason that paradox is so built into modernity is that broken people are the most paradoxical.
Oh, God. The reason that broken people are paradoxical is that the human psyche is built up of a sub-variety of personalities. This is why... You know what? I'm going to read it as the DNA voice. This is widely accepted in practically all fields of psychology, whether Freudian, Jungian, family systems therapy, neurology. Wait. Okay. Jungian psychology is not a field. That isn't a field in psychology as far as I'm aware. This is the result of GOP education, unironically. What a healthy psyche does, and in reality, through human nature, this in the vast majority of cases is achieved through religion, with some rare cases by reason, is integrate the sub-personalities together into a healthy family dynamic. This is the core of family systems therapy, where, much like an actual family, the mind is a family where each of the components are stuck together. Like an arranged marriage, they're expected to figure it out, and if they fail, you're miserable. Healthy people are able to listen to the needs of their mind, body, and soul, while broken people jostle together. For the unhealthy, their mind is different sub-personalities taking power at one at a time, provoking enormous internal dissonance or chaos. Okay.
I don't really agree with this, but Tolstoy said all happy families are similar and that unhappy people are different. It speaks to a point that broken people have lots of disintegrated stuff which jostles against others. Healthy people have come to terms with their own complexity. Modern society is incredibly immature since it's the first time that humanity has gotten enough power to not be totally reliant on the Earth's bounty. For almost all of our ancestors, they were farmers, herders, hunter-gatherers, or whatever, and those who weren't were people like lords or church or bourgeoisie who were a small minority, totally dependent on the people who were getting food from the land. With the Industrial Revolution, we unlocked enormous power that we had no experience with. It's like giving a child a power tool with no training. It's frankly painful to watch if you're the sort of person who knows where this is going to end. The other thing is that we became so wealthy so fast that people became insulated from the costs of their decisions. People could believe utterly insane things, like that reality didn't exist, or that everyone was equal, since they bore no costs for saying crazy stuff.
Yeah, you know, utterly crazy ideas like that all human beings deserve equal dignity and protection under the law. You know, just those that crazy idea, like that we shouldn't discriminate. This man sucks. Yeah, no, like, this man is unhinged. What an insane concept. People deserve equal protections?
This is a highly dangerous situation, and the general public is far too comfortable to deal with it in a responsible way. The sheer degree of denial I see in the world today is something I could not have predicted in advance, but I don't blame myself since this is just utter madness. Faced with enormous intractable issues, whether the new technologies we do not yet understand, such as genetic engineering, AI, space, or even older stuff.
Well, wait, we understand genetic engineering, AI, and space. We don't understand all of them. We don't understand, like, everything to do with DNA. Like, we don't understand everything to do with space or everything to do with AI, but we do understand enough about those things to have studied them for at least space, for the entirety of human existence. DNA, since we discovered it, like 30 years ago? I guess no, 30 years ago would have been the Human Genome Project. Whatever, you understand. More recently than how long we've been studying space.
Like nuclear weapons or shoving chemicals into everything, we have a public that has zero interest in even thinking about the consequences. Throw on top of this a complete societal and cultural collapse, paralleled either by the earlier fall of civilizations like Rome, Persia, or Greece, or with the horrifying Mouse Utopia experiments.
Again, the Mouse Utopia experiments are only horrifying if you don't look into the Mouse Utopia experiments at all. Because if you look into them, it turns out you should not be drawing wide-scale conclusions from them.
Which, again, the public ignores all of this.
I go over his entire Mouse Utopia video, so you guys can watch that, rather than me trying to rehash the entire painful experience here.
This is just the tip of a spear between the culture or innovation grinding to an utter halt, the rise of external powers like China, an utterly collapsing birth rate, political polarization, the average person sliding into degrading poverty, and the West being controlled by a death cult bent on the destruction of its own civilization. I'm not even giving everything that deserves credit here.
I love this because it's just like, is this not just Bacchus? Is this not just like literally like a figure from Western civilization? God.
Destruction of its own civilization. I'm not even giving everything that deserves credit here. Like, haha, credit. The world is going on the most insane financial money printing event ever in human history, or potential climactic issues. As I like to say, this all sounds quite intimidating, because it is. However, life is a shit test.
For older viewers, a shit test is when a girl does something purposely abrasive, rude, or annoying to test your masculinity to see if you can dominate her. These are quite common, and you can see the left trying to destroy the West in all archetypes of serious masculinity. A civilizational shit test. God. So, yes, he also does incorporate a lot of incel rhetoric into his videos. Yeah. Cool. Also, that is a thing. some girls do this, and ladies, don't do this. This is a bad idea. It's a bad idea for your like personal safety, and it's also a bad idea because if you're in a situation or a relationship where you have to do that, just don't be in the relationship anymore. Like if you feel like you have to test your man, don't be in that relationship. It's already not healthy.
And you have nothing better to do than to deal with it.
Dugga
I know
doo-doo,
none of
indeed.
you have lives that are more interesting or compelling than fixing this. A lot of you are normies, have financial liabilities or families, but a lot of you don't either. We're going to have to solve this, and if we don't, we will lose absolutely everything. People are too coddled to...
On that note, have you seen the newly leaked Laura Loomer video? I haven't seen it, but I have read enough about it. And it's just gross. She's like predating on an unwilling guy, unwilling young-looking guy too, from what I saw and read. No, thank you. Don't do that. Don't do that shit.
Day to realize how bad life can get and how stopping that requires effort and courage. One of my good friends used to work for an agriculture company in India and Thailand and Indonesia, and he said in those countries there is levels of poverty which we would only see in post-apocalyptic movies.
Yeah, gee whiz, I wonder why that is. Did you ask your friend who worked at the massive agriculture company that was working in those countries? Why were they living in such poverty? I wonder.
We're going to fix this so that our children can live in a better country, because that is the only acceptable outcome we should choose to live with. What I did not expect was that the whole world's reaction to this would just be denial. I didn't think lying to yourself for this long was even in the phone book of options. I assumed...
Again, like 90% of the problems he points out are due to capitalism, but he constantly tries to find a different cause.
Over time that the nagging worries would become...
Or he just makes up something like, oh, people are in denial about people living in extreme poverty. And what? No, they aren't. People know that people are poor.
Too intrusive, that the streets would get too dirty and people would get too poor. But psych, no. Welcome to governance by the baby boomers, where issues are not solved, and we all collectively agree to pretend it's still the 20th century, while having none of the positives of that society. You'd think people would realize after a certain point that it's inside their self-interest to defect from the system, but I think a combination of economic misery, being so isolated, beaten down by the left's psychological warfare, and the collective slide into madness, that people don't have the life force to stand upright.
You know what I like about this so far? So far, this has just been a lot of rambling and bullshit, but not like this is just like, he hasn't really gotten to his point yet. He hasn't, like, this is all just preamble, or a pre-ramble, if you will. Because he's not talking about specifics regarding anything.
However, this will change, and it's a matter of when, not if.
It's all vague.
Since situations like this are innately deeply unstable. We see a sort of stable equilibrium now, since it looks like the world we thought we knew. However, the current world around us is an illusion kept together by too many people being utterly terrified of losing their worldly things. They don't seem to realize that they're going to lose their...
Anyone else said that Rudyard is a millionaire?
Uncle Simric, thank you for being a member for the past 13 months. And also, folks, consider supporting the stream. Consider dropping those subs and donos to support whatever the hell this is. What even is my life? What even...
I am very proud of the mental horsepower you have.
Thanks.
Things anyway if they don't stand up. I partly blame aging, since we are the first old society ever in human history, with America being one of the younger...
What? People got old. People in the past also aged and got old. if they didn't die in like the first 5-ish years of their lives, they would generally live to the same age we would, on, you know, maybe a little bit younger, maybe like late 60s, but like still. God.
Countries in the industrial world, but our average age is still 40. Modernity is weird for both keeping a lot of consistency with earlier eras of history, but also having its own weird new stuff. You can't call which will be which in advance. This world will come crashing down. In fact, it already has in nearly every conceivable way. However, we're too set on maintaining the illusion of the old world. No matter how hard we try, we are not strong enough to stop this, since elites do not in fact control the world. The world has its own plans, and history shows that—
Oh, cool, man. When I say that elites do not dominate the world has its own plans. What I mean by that is that if you read enough history, you find that elites simply cannot wield the power conspiracy theorists would often like them to. When you look inside the largest and most powerful states in history, like Stalin or Hitler, I'm sorry, Hitler was one of the largest and most powerful states in history? Hitler. Dude, when I say this guy's a fucking Nazi, I mean he's a fucking Nazi. Just the way he talks about Nazis in this video already. It's nuts. You find international clusterfucks which were vastly more inefficient than the American small government regime. The American small government machine that went and defeated the Nazis and then won the Cold War. Oh, okay, sure. All right. Even the most powerful people on Earth are in fact powerless to the world itself. History is given by very deep non-human forces like demographics aren't a human force. Demographics are just groupings of humans. It's just us paying attention to different groups of humans in different areas. Oh, maybe he meant demon graphics. Climate, geology, the collective unconscious. Okay, one, the collective unconscious is bullshit. And two, if it did exist, that would be a human force because it's made by people. And then your next one is macroeconomic shifts, which are again caused by people. These are fucking. I'm losing it. I'm fucking losing it. I cannot. This is nuts. All right. God damn it. These are strong enough to destroy any human regime. Yes. Hey guys, did you know that like both internal and external powers and forces could end a government? Wow.
Elites who don't keep up with them get crushed. The current order has nothing holding it together except entropy. No one believes in the current order, even the elites. No one wants this to be our world. Both the right and the left hate modernity, and
I guarantee you he's gonna make this into some kind of spiritus mundi, like Gaia Earth spirit situation. I guarantee you at some point that's coming. He usually hides his power level for like the first 45 minutes.
the current regime is incapable of generating anything. Regimes that don't generate things die and get crushed by those who do as part of a natural Darwinistic process. Modernity is so fast that trends which may have taken centuries 2,000 years ago can occur in decades. The reason you haven't realized that the old world is dead is that there has been an active conspiracy on the part of the entire world's social authorities to not show it.
So conspiracists aren't right when they talk about how, like, powerful people armed with billions of dollars are able to exert a lot of political influence. But the conspiracy theorists are right when they're talking about a global cabal controlling what is socially acceptable. Okay.
sounds like a centrally orchestrated thing, but rather it's just from the individual self-interest of various world leaders and elites who don't understand the new world or how to deal with it, and so can't make new stories about the current society that don't end up invalidating their own rule. It's a tale as old as time, corrupt elites trying to hold on to power at all costs. We try to maintain the outward forms of the comfortable and stable John Hughes Simpsons America of the last century, while for most
John Hughes America was by no means the norm in the 1990s or 80s. What the fuck are you talking about?
younger people, their lives have practically nothing in common with it. As I've read more books from the 20th century, it's really struck me how much we've changed since then in so many ways, even with authors in the 1990s. This is a lot for someone my age to hold on their plate. It would be a lie to say that knowing this hasn't eaten at me a little. My eyes are already open and I couldn't close them even if I wanted to. There's not enough space to live in the older version of me who believed these lies as a child for me to grow today. As of now, I just have to watch my world fall apart before my own eyes. And
Dude, find a better therapist. You might have learned about family systems, but you need to find a better therapist.
I was just at the supermarket in the cereal aisle. I didn't see postmodernism anywhere.
Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs. I appreciate you supporting this stream in the brain rot content.
vast majority of people are too medicated, depressed, and/or are in denial to acknowledge it. I guess this is my fate. There are worse things in the big picture, and I'll make sure it works. I have plenty of good stuff. I am from a culture where people speak bluntly, where I'm an Irish guy from Philly, where people don't really have filters back home. So don't read between the lines too much at what I'm saying here. I started to intuit all of these things as a teenager. As I said before, I'm from Philly, which is probably the most downwardly mobile city in America over the last century. So a lot of these
Dude, you're genuinely just screenshotting the AI drivel? You're not even like going into like the Inquirer's website and taking a screenshot of that? Come on.
Downwardly mobile city in America over the last century, so a lot of these conclusions were utterly unavoidable. However, I was intimidated by these things. I'm not anymore. The reason is that as a teen, I could tell adults didn't know what they were really saying about the world. The things they said felt empty and banal, like styrofoam. Real things are messy and living.
Like styrofoam.
Nihilism is killing us. Growing up, my father would tell me about how the most core causal variable for the issues I saw in the world around me was the death of God. My father said that without a shared
God. Yeah, it's the death of God. Nietzsche killed God. Did you know? I saw this really cool video from a new age hippie cult called Happy Science. It taught me all about how God is dead. It leads you straight to hell and kills the world.
sense of God or meaning that people
God, how fucking funny would it be if it turned out that Whatifalthist was a happy science practitioner? Just collides all of our worlds.
did not have the reason to live. He said that Marxism was the envious who were trying to tear down the world to take revenge for the loss of heaven or an afterlife. That the reason the West was too weak to either have an effective foreign policy or let children play outside is that without God there was no reason to face.
Wait, Churchill was a racist, though. He was fine with killing millions of people in India because he thought they were disgusting and bred like rabbits. Like, yeah, Winston Churchill was incredibly racist, actually.
Policy or let children play outside is that without God there was no reason to face suffering or believe in yourself. He said that
Man, I love when the guy, like, what is this map? You didn't even bother to label your map, man.
Working with niches, with the help of KYOJI.
Help of Kyoji! Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs.
The story of the 20th century was when our human sciences did not progress as fast as our technological sciences, which created evil regimes based off pseudoscience. That the human sciences of the 20th century were just stuff we made up, and instead we would have to pull on religion or pre-modern social...
I mean, everything about society is just stuff we made up, man. Like...
ideas to make a correct system. This is where I started intellectually. I spent years trying to figure out how the world really worked. I compared the different philosophies of the world from both the pre-modern and modern eras. I then did my own reading and studied the scientific or intellectual work we have now to run a sort of reality filter on which philosophies and worldviews aligned with both reality and the functionality of a human society the most. I continually found that Marxists were the most obnoxious liars, and our society had been way too soft on them. Secondly, that pre-modern societies often understood highly complex and deep things, but explained them in a format that was totally unrelatable to modern people.
Yes, people who lived a long time ago did in fact know things. And yeah, they did communicate those in ways that were difficult to understand for people so far removed from their civilizations. Yes, that is true.
Or with religions and myths, which left out very important sort of tools for modern people to understand them, or things we know now. However, I found something that could work. I found a corpus of ideas which can resolve all of the major issues with what—
Oh, a corpus of ideas, my goodness.
I've articulated here. Let me show them to you. Part 2. Which worldview is accurate? The video I most recently made was about how the vast majority of our worldview today is inaccurate. That on some level, every academic discipline had been colored by incorrect framings to a degree in which you can't trust our entire worldview.
God, I wish this was a Star Trek episode, Samantha's Trains.
That's a very deep and heavy topic, which I won't get as much into this video. However, that's a framework you are going to need to understand this video. It also plays into what I just said, that the current mental and worldview framework we have for the world is not able to deal with the dangerous realities of life today. There's a sort of disjoint here in trying to cross-reference which theories of the world can explain the world today. Modernist thinkers have a tendency to be
well, every theory on how the world works does explain how the world works, doesn't it? That's how a theory operates, right?
really bad at understanding systems thinking, human nature, or the big picture. This is a way bigger issue than a lot of you probably realize, since those things—
Wait a minute, it's hard for you to find the big picture? Why, that's easy, it's right here! Right on the far left of the screen! Look at that big picture!
The only theory I accept about how the world works is Tokyo wo Tamare.
Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs. Very much appreciated. And, that's fair.
form every element of how you perceive the world. For example, communism was seen as a moral evil for the vast majority of human history, since they had a better comprehension of human nature, that humans have souls pointed towards heaven and their own animal motivations. This makes Marxism slavery to the state, not seen as empowering a world without conflict or poverty.
Well, Marxism, in fact, has nothing to do with slavery to the state. That's Stalinism, my friend. Marx actually advocated for the abolition of the state. So, I don't think you know what you're talking about.
Which it does not actually achieve, but rather the crushing of human soul and character. Alternately, pre-modern thinkers would see stuff like cold rationalism or social engineering as evil, since neither respected the interconnected and divine nature of reality itself, where you can't just rip reality up without thinking you're going to generate more issues than you solve. This is what pre-modern thinkers were really good at and moderns are terrible at. Modern people are way better at knowing the how and very bad at knowing the why or should.
Oh my god, I swear the text walls are getting bigger. One of the things that's totally obvious is an anthropologist. You don't call yourself an anthropologist, you dipshit. You don't deserve that. Which I have to remind myself most people in the general public don't know is just how deep and permeable cultural differences are. The academic consensus now, even at places like Harvard, is that genetic and cultural differences between groups are intertwined, that cultural shifts inform genetic shifts, and that different ethnic groups have cultures made for their genetics. You can spot physiological shifts in populations caused by history centuries afterwards through epigenetics. Cultural differences are largely unconscious, and who you are culturally is totally obvious in how you act or your motivations. White Americans of different European backgrounds are still highly distinctive centuries later. Italians, German, Irish Americans still have noticeable cultural differences now, and we can still see the different British diasporas to colonial America and the genetics of most white Americans today. This doesn't even cover how staggeringly large the cultural differences by civilization can be. Your civilization's worldview will completely color your perception of reality itself. Except that, no. I can't, if I read all of the text walls for an hour and a half long Rudyard video, I'm not going to be able to speak. Yeah, again, this is his divine bloodline shit. Oh yeah, no, you see, the reason we can't have different people of different racial and ethnic backgrounds living together is because, they're just genetically, they're all different. They're too different from us.
Look at wokeness where the left
argument.
so blindly pushed for racial stats for various industries to match their quotas. This leaves out very important details like how cultures and genetics are actually quite different, where you'll see on top of that a radical neutering of innovation, which is largely done by white men.
Yeah, again, what he's saying here is that if you push for more ethnic differences in the fields of whiteness that he determines, of course, like research. Well, if you have black and brown people doing research, they ruin the efficiency and innovation of the white researchers. That's what he's saying, right? Because his argument is, well, different cultures just gravitate to the different things they're good at. But when you have a quota system, that means that you're putting unqualified black and brown people in the laboratory with the white men. And the white men are the ones doing the real innovation. Everyone else is just slowing them down. That's his argument. His argument is, know your place, essentially.
Using national racial stats over America is just utter madness, given how much America's racial demographics fluctuate by region, and that's leaving out a dozen other very important variables they did not, in fact, consider. This is just one example of one of modernity's logical fallacies, but there are very many. However, at the same time, there's a sort of unbridgeable gulf between ancient wisdom and modern science. For a brief example, which will make the rest of the video more comprehensible, alchemy has a very distinct grammar for how the world works.
We are 19 minutes in, and we have our first mention of alchemy. Let's go.
You don't know the grammar, alchemy comes...
Wait, he might have mentioned it during the Balaji part. Never mind. I take that back.
...across as gibberish. However, if you do, it's absolutely brilliant. For example, in alchemy, there are 4 states: albedo, rubedo, nigredo, or citrinitas. For examples in history, albedo is a period of high intellectual depth and cultivation. Examples would include classical Athens, 18th century France, or the Italian Renaissance. The white or albedo must come...
God, I wonder how far away we are from him talking about the miasma theory of health.
out of chaos and disorder, though, which all of these historic periods did, and it
This guy is just esoteric Nazism, the channel. It's crazy.
must evolve into yellow or citrinitis. This is when a sort of idea of a society evolves into material form, or how those intellectual principles from those breakthroughs were applied across the whole world. This is a stage of decadence where these ideas mix with the world and get watered down. That would be the Hellenistic period, modernity, or Baroque decadence, which followed all of those time periods. However, decadence is necessary to this process since it burns away the unnecessary parts of the older society and allows these ideas to sink in with the society. Negredo, get your laughs out now, guys.
He's literally just like, haha, because it sounds like the N-word. At least he knows his audience. I mean, yeah, right? Like that, no, look, there, you post this Wojak and that feel when homie passes through the Negredo stage. Like, dude's just like, tee-hee, it sounds like the N-word.
This isn't about black people, is a term for the raw darkness and horror of your worst points.
Ha 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 ha.
In alchemy, suffering is required to burn away weakness. You can see this is totally true in that Darwinism is built off survival of the fittest. Ancient historians like Herodotus or Ibn Khaldun agreed that weakness destroyed nations and science, rule of law, capitalism, or democracy.
Wow, weakness leads to the destruction of a thing. Wow. Yeah, it's yeah, no way they could have figured that out.
Are so valuable since they create internal rules to mediate productive competition. Negredo is the least favorite, but it's also necessary to keep things real, and good things only come out of how suffering makes people stronger. Think of how the vast majority of scientific innovations are from war. This is a principle that people in modernity really have a hard time stomaching since we live in such comfortable times. We don't want to believe that suffering is necessary to growth. Finally is rubedo, which is the lion's roar of red.
Literally all growth happens through like failure and suffering. Like that, even in decadence, like that's how like working out functions, man.
This is the period when history just explodes, like how Alexander the Great or Genghis Khan broke entire continents under their will, the French Revolution exploding across Europe, or the Spanish bloodily taking down 2 continents. This is necessary, but again, modernity doesn't like this, since genuine innovation—
What? What? The mass genocide of indigenous people was necessary? It was super necessary to steal their land and gold? Like, what are you talking about?
is always disruptive. It's so spoiled and immature of us to hate on the age of European exploration, industrialization, and colonialism, since we all live in the world they made. The only reason we have the science, hygiene, food, technology, or often countries or continents that we do is because of the rubedo of that era. We're now sliding into yellow.
Okay, so Whatifalthist has just found like a schema that applied to ancient alchemy and says, yes, but what if I applied that to the world events and history for some reason, and thinks it's a compelling point? Why?
Or black, so that we can have another era of white or red. Finally, you have the blue, which I haven't studied as much, but I believe is the creative font of new innovation that comes from the shadows or the night. Think of how the European Dark Ages—
with Otro, how dare modern society reject my theory based on 4 colors, 4 seasons. We're in winter now, but like unironically, he thinks it's a like a compelling new idea that it's like, oh, what if we conceived of history as going through springtime, summer, fall, and winter? What a concept. Why do these guys like bare bones color theory? Because they suck.
the fall of Rome set the foundations for the most successful civilization in history, or how colonial America did the same for our nation, how the forests and myths of ancient Greece set the foundations for the albedo of their classical civilization and the rubedo of Alexander. The thing is that I applied this framework to history, since
Why?
that's my area of study, but you could do this for any.
But why would you apply that framework to world history? How is that useful? Like, what? Like, it doesn't explain anything, man. You're just ad hoc. This is like you took like a picture of 4 different clouds and you were like, ah, yes, this is the fog era. We're in the fog era of civilization, where everything gets a little bit chaotic and nobody knows what to do. And here's the thunderhead cloud of civilization. Why, it looks like something's really building up and something's gonna happen. Oh, what's gonna happen? And then all the lightning storm. And then we have the the high. I don't know too many different cloud types. I've maxed out my cloud types. We're moving on.
Other discipline. Keep in mind, alchemy was in a lot of ways the origin of science.
Weak clouds make hard times.
As we'll talk about later in this video, where every major thinker in the foundation of modern science had some background in alchemy. Alchemy exists in parallel to science in that.
Yeah, because before the scientific method was codified, people had their pre-scientific method version of study, and it was useful, for its limitations, but like, it's just another ritualized form of science. And also then after they invented the scientific method, like, people continued to do alchemy till eventually enough people died from drinking mercury that they stopped.
It's a set of way to look at symptoms which mirror across realms of existence. So you could use these colors to look at human nature, psychology, smelting in a smithy, which is where alchemy started, for spirituality, history, evolution, or other disciplines. An interesting element of the psychology of alchemy is when you're talking about these colors, you're breaking out of the idea that this trauma is caused by your parents, or
this book is only on Audible, but was surprisingly good at explaining this topic. Out of curiosity here. On the alchemical imagination from 1980 to present. Oh, from the C.G. Jung Institute of Los Angeles. Oh, the Carl Jung Institute. That makes a lot of sense for this guy.
Or this is caused by your employer. You're just saying, you are in Negredo and you are suffering. You should deal with it. And I see these as useful tools which you can apply to a wide variety of disciplines as a certain type of lens, but not the sole lens you should use. I see this video as a—
What problem does that help you solve? When like a photographer swaps out a lens, it's to solve a certain problem. What are you solving with this?
Challenge. If it kind of comes off strange, you don't like it, the reason is I'm trying to get to the edges of what I can do with my current skill level to see if it works. One of the tests here is, can I get a modernist audience to respect something which their neurology will absolutely not like? We don't think about this, but the way modern societies wire their neurology is in fact not rational or scientific. Science is just a testing method, and you don't need the machine-like aesthetic or to apply science as the sole ruling principle of your society. What
are you talking about, man? The aesthetic of science?
We agreed to that since it fit a certain vibe.
These days, people think on a very childish vibes basis, where they'll make a mental association without checking if it's accurate. Wow, someone who would just write or say things without any concern about whether or not they're accurate? Definitely not on this channel. And then force everyone to agree with their vibe so they don't get challenged. For example, the general public has made the emotional decision that machine-like equals good. Humans are psychologically... What are you... I'm sorry, what? Machine-like is good is the emotional decision the general public has made? When? Did I miss the meeting again? Just the general public meeting where we decided this? Guys. Alright. Humans are psychologically made to imitate machines in our theories of human nature. The way machines think is superior to the way humans think, and no, that's you've fallen for the advertisements that, like, the guys who make the machines that you then buy give you. Like, come on, man. Bizoo, thank you for the 3 tier 1 subs.
I don't know if this dono is to get you to stop or continue KEKV real BWA energy tonight.
Bizoo, thank you for that 3 tier 1 sub support. I genuinely appreciate it. I'm gonna need it to get through this. The issue is that no one actually thought through all the implications of if being a machine is even good. For example, we don't really... no, it's not like there's an entire field... It's not like there's an entire field of literature dedicated to thinking about whether or not being a machine is good. It's not like you have an entire body of literature that does that constantly. For example, we don't really care about what the scientific method says in this society, given the scientific method has proven lots of uncomfortable things like sex, race, or inequality. What? The scientific method has proven lots of uncomfortable things like sex? I mean, sex is definitely only uncomfortable if you're doing it wrong. Race... yeah, we have scientific studies on race. And or inequality. One, you should have an Oxford comma there. Okay. But number 2, science doesn't... Yes, science has also studied inequality as a concept.
Not because it...
Oh god. Rather, we worship the aesthetic of the machine and sterility. We have to live in houses made like cardboard boxes since the elites want us to be the kind of people who would like in cardboard boxes. What? This is genuinely some tinfoil hat, like, are you okay? Someone needs to go to his house and check on him.
Actually made rational sense, since no major philosopher ever argued for this, as I explain in this text wall. If I fail this test, oh well, things happen sometimes. The way I think, and I believe this is valuable to articulate since it's alien to a lot of people, is that I say things as a way to think out the implications of it in a process of curiosity with my audience.
Yeah, but like, you don't have to then make a YouTube video of that, you know?
I put on various perspectives or intellectual masks, try them on, and if they stick, I keep them. This is how I see stuff like this. The reason I state this is that people seem to get very worked up about intellectual or social ideas as they form their identity, but this totally removes thinking about them critically and sort of fossilizes people's worldviews.
People don't critically think about their own ideas? That's silly.
Once you fossilize a worldview, it's going to end up being wrong because it won't be able to adjust to the world. I try to keep a core set of moral values I hold true to, and then adapt my worldview by context or whatever new data I pull in tells me. I am frequently wrong and will happily admit when I am. That being said, I think there's something profoundly valuable in the pre-industrial world's perception. I think not even being interested in studying any of the elements for how people in earlier societies understood the world is insanely arrogant and deranged for modernity even to try this. It's pretty insane that we have total confidence on a 200-year trajectory since the French Revolution, which has been marred by constant wars and disturbances. One where the scientific consensus on...
Dude is going full megalovania right now. Also, Mr. Malachite, you're absolutely right. Earlier in the video, he said that elites don't actually have any power, and now he's saying that the elites have the ability to force you to live in a cardboard box. So, like, which is it?
A variety of topics changes every generation, and where social authorities are totally unwilling to admit fault. At the same time, where they push ideas which are overtly wrong, like that men and women are the same, or that you can print infinite money with no consequences.
How can you have this many words exit your mouth with zero thoughts passing through your head?
He literally opened up the video talking about like gender and infinite money. Like he opened up the video talking about these same points. All right. Also, Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs. And dude has so little substance. I think he was a new element. You know? We got one lighter than hydrogen, folks. Rudyardinium.
And having a coherent functioning society is racism. Looking to the past to figure out principles is just common sense. And
man, dude just slipped in that he supports ethno-states. This guy sucks.
the question is which principles from the past fit with our current context and appear to match up with the trustworthy scientific data we have now. I need you to watch this video until the end, although I know it's long, before you judge, since I think there will be an immediate knee-jerk no reaction, but I've spent years trying to translate alchemical principles into modern scientific terminology, and it—
But why? What? But why though? How at all is it useful?
does actually work. Surprising. If you actually understand what alchemy is trying to convey behind all the obtuse symbols and weird language, you'll find it has a pre-established moral code and worldview.
That's still one up on Klein, who supports ethno-states.
True. And you know what? Fuck them both.
Which already knows how to handle the enormous power of modern technology that we have now, as well as how to cultivate a society which is responsible enough to handle it. The good news is that all of these questions we worry about now have already been thought through for thousands of years. I have lots of friends in the tech industry, and it's funny they'll mention some problem, and so often the alchemists already wrote on that, and I can just immediately tell them what the alchemical teaching is. I've checked—
God, is Rudyard just turning himself into like the Silicon Valley like bard? I don't know how many people remember. Maybe like 10 years ago, there was like a bard who was popular among like Silicon Valley elites who would like go in and like play like a mandolin or something. They'd have like weird like mushroom bard parties. It was, yeah, like a techno shaman. Yeah.
this for a while, and it's consistently held up. That's since the philosophy of alchemy is a question of how to attain greater and greater amounts of power without growing corrupted. This was an issue philosophers have been aware of for millennia. You know, man, sometimes the sorcery's just too strong, and you gotta roll with that. Another very valuable—
Oh, we need that as a sound clip. We need that as a sound clip.
thing is that the alchemical worldview is not in contradiction with Christianity at all. Every major Christian church has endorsed it and funded it at one point or another. The Catholic Church funded research on the topic, and in the 16th century, every major royal court in Europe hired alchemists. The philosophy of alchemy influenced the early church, with the fathers of the church like St. Augustine or Origen not being totally opposed, seeing the founder of this tradition, Hermes Trismegistus, as a precursor to Christ and a pagan figure in the Christian tradition like Seneca, Plato, or Aristotle. Hermeticism, or another name for the philosophy of alchemy, has already had an enormous impact on Western history between the Italian Renaissance, which it heavily inspired, the founding fathers that were deeply steeped in it, as were almost all of the founders of science. We're going to talk about this more so at the end of the video. The reason we don't hear about it is since this stuff is coded in a certain way that it's not generally accessible, and it was
One
heavily
alchemist
concentrated—
was the youngest to ever pass the state alchemy exam. His name was Edward Elric.
Imagine making an entire video about New Age alchemy and never including one reference to Full Metal Alchemist. Couldn't be me.
Among the upper classes or intellectuals who were the people making leadership decisions, but didn't percolate through the general public, so it didn't transfer to democracy very easily. I will say that this tradition is deeply complex. I've kind of stumbled into it, and after reading like 50 books on
Oh boy. Yeah. You know, I don't know how many of you immediately just scanned this, but there's like a number of books here. Robert A. Monroe. Robert A. Monroe. I don't know if any of y'all know this. Robert A. Monroe is an expert on out-of-body experiences. So when he's writing about the ultimate journey, he's talking about, you know, spiritual out-of-body journeys. We're getting into some spirit science shit. Oh boy, that's why there's a book of someone levitating a spoon. Fuck
mysticism. I still don't consider myself a master. I learn something new every time I open a book on this topic, and my skills here aren't anywhere as good as what they all
God, I hope he makes a video of him trying to cast a magic spell.
Or in history or anthropology. However, I know practically no one else knows anything on these topics, so I'm going to go ahead. Another element is that alchemy.
Look, if you do cast astral projection, just remember, never let your silver cord get cut.
Deals with how to advance on a consciousness level as your material conditions improve, which means they are writing for people at different tiers of consciousness at once. If you're not aware enough to understand something in alchemy, that's on purpose, since that information is only meant to be known by someone who is aware enough to take it. It's overly complex and
okay, so this is very clearly this is very clearly like the beginning of his like public facing cult formation attempt, right?
Weird on purpose for that reason. If you don't like it, that's fine. It's not made for most people. It's designed to be the exact opposite of convenient or comprehensible, which makes it utterly incomprehensible to the modern mind. Part 3, the Hermetic worldview.
I'm sorry, did we even get a part 2? Wait, unironically. Wait a minute. God, I'm never gonna find like a part 2. Wait, I know. Show me the transcript. Okay. Okay, there was a part 2 at about 15 minutes in. All right.
Doesn't anyone notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
You know, honestly, folks, I am exhausted. It is 4 o'clock in the morning where I am right now. I think that's a perfect way to end our part 1 of this journey into Rudyard, because this is just nuts. And we just hit part 3. We're 30 minutes in, which means we're technically a third of the way done here. We've finished 1/3 of the video, and it has only taken us 2 hours to parse 30 minutes of text. Who was that? That was Will Ferrell from Zoolander. It's genuinely hurting my brain because we watched 30 minutes of that, but I don't feel like he's actually made any kind of point. He's just like, and anyway, I discovered alchemy, and I decided to apply it to my historical analysis for some reason. But he hasn't told us what that reason is, or like what, why any of this is important. Oh God, I hope you guys enjoyed this. You guys did dono specifically so that I would talk about this, and I'm going to do my best. I'll hit you up with part 2 on a new day, and wow. I'm gonna continue to do my best. With this, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Do leave comments, by the way. They really, really help in the algorithm.
Now I'm thinking about what if the most powerful superhero on Earth was just really, really good looking.
Well, I don't know. They'd have to be better looking than Captain Hammer. Also, Sake Tanuki, thank you for the additional 2 tier 1 subs. And I also just want to say, folks, check out ImogeneOlivia.com. Gender euphoric lingerie is here, and you should check it out. It's designed from the ground up with trans femmes in mind, but we've also tested it with cis men and cis women and a bunch of folks in between. And you know what? They've rave reviews all around. So please check out ImogeneOlivia.com. Link should be in the description. And with that said, folks, I will see you tomorrow. Bye!
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube and Swishy streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, being flame more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord. Riverboat Jack.